Ever wonder what truly powers the economies that, often fly under the radar? Today, we're doing a really fascinating deep dive into Minnesota's knowledge sector. Now, you might think of the state for its 10,000 lakes or maybe those famously cold winters, but we're about to uncover how Minnesota has, well, quietly become a global powerhouse in high-tech, knowledge-intensive industries. Our mission here is to kind of cut through all the information, pull out some surprising insights, and really understand what drives innovation and growth in this pretty unique state. We pulled from a really comprehensive overview report. It highlights everything from key industries, major institutions, economic impact, workforce trends, right up to the latest developments.
Yeah, it's a fantastic case study because the knowledge sector, it isn't just part of modern economies anymore, it's really the foundation.
Hmm.
And Minnesota has, quite deliberately it seems, cultivated fields that are just utterly reliant on specialized expertise, intense research, and continuous innovation. So we'll explore what makes this sector so vital, not just for Minnesota's own prosperity, but maybe as a compelling blueprint for economic resilience and strategic growth, in today's world.
Okay, so when we talk about a knowledge sector, my mind immediately jumps to like software or IT.
Yeah.
But Minnesota's version seems to be much broader than that, doesn't it? What does that actually encompass for the state?
Absolutely. It's definitely not just tech, although, tech is a huge piece of the puzzle. In Minnesota's context, the knowledge sector really refers to this landscape marked by strong innovation, really impressive educational assets, and high-value industries. The state's economy has made a definite pivot into this knowledge-based landscape. So when we dive into it, we're talking core areas like education itself, significant R&D, technology, healthcare innovation, biotech, information services, and it's built on a highly educated population too. Minnesota boasts, I think, the sixth highest share of adults with at least a high school diploma, and it ranks 12th for adults with a bachelor's degree or higher. That's a really powerful human capital foundation right there.
That makes a lot of sense. A strong education base is clearly where it all starts. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's peel back the layers on the specific industries that are truly driving this innovation. Beyond just, educating the workforce, how do institutions like the University of Minnesota and all those private colleges really act as economic backbones?
Oh, they're absolutely crucial. It goes way beyond just turning out skilled graduates. These academic institutions, they're conducting groundbreaking research that directly fuels innovation in the state. And that commitment really extends deeply into research and development across Minnesota. Businesses alone invest over $8 billion annually in R&D. That's a huge number. And what's particularly striking is how collaborative it all is. It's not isolated work. A lot of this investment flows into partnerships with both the University of Minnesota and, of course, the Mayo Clinic, which both have these global reputations for research. I mean, think about the U of M. It hosts over 300 interdisciplinary research centers. They're fueling discoveries in areas as diverse as biomedical genomics, food safety, even cutting-edge nanotech. It's a really vibrant ecosystem.
That collaboration sounds like a bit of a secret weapon, doesn't it? And it's this foundation, I guess, that leads us directly to the engine room of modern innovation, technology and information services. What kind of impact are we actually seeing there?
The scale of impact here is, well, it's truly eye-opening. High-tech industries accounted for over 380,000 jobs in Minnesota back in 2019. That represented 12.4% of total non-farm employment, which is actually a higher share than the U.S. average. That really makes you pause and think. Minnesota excels in IT services, professional technical services, and it has these unique strengths in areas like corporate headquarters. Big names like 3M, Target, Best Buy are based there. And alongside that, a very robust medical technology manufacturing sector. The state ranks 11th nationally for tech occupations, and this workforce alone contributes an estimated $31 billion in annual economic impact. It's kind of a quiet giant.
Wow. $31 billion. That's a significant slice of the economy, especially when you consider it's not just, Silicon Valley clones. And speaking of unique strengths, when we talk healthcare innovation and biotech or life sciences, Minnesota often gets called Medical Alley. What makes it such a global hub?
Yeah, Medical Alley is a really apt description, and its legacy is incredibly rich. I mean, the Mayo Clinic was founded way back in 1889, Medtronic in the 1950s. Today, the Twin Cities region alone is home to more than 500 medical device companies. 500. And 900 pharmaceutical and biotech R&D firms. We're talking about a sector that employs over 500,000 people statewide, which is just remarkable. But here's maybe the most compelling insight, how prolific they are. Minnesota leads the entire U.S., ranking first for medical device patents per capita, first, and third for all health-related patents. This isn't just a top ranking, it really speaks to Minnesota's unique DNA and innovation. Medical breakthroughs aren't just conceived there, they're consistently patented, often influencing global healthcare far beyond the state's borders.
So it's not just about the big institutions, it's the sheer volume of new ideas and products coming out.
Mhm.
And it doesn't stop at medtech, right? The state also has significant strengths in biotechnology and agriculture technology.
That's exactly right. Think about this. 5 of the 30 largest food and agriculture companies in the world are based right there, like Cargill, General Mills, Land O'Lakes. And the state ranks second in food-related patents per capita, fourth in agricultural patents. This sector alone generates nearly $23 billion in annual economic impact and provides over 60,000 direct jobs in bioscience. It's a really powerful blend of, traditional agriculture and cutting-edge science.
And it seems like these corporate giants do more than just provide jobs. You mentioned corporate headquarters and knowledge-based services. How does Minnesota's leading position there first in Fortune 500s per capita actually contribute to the knowledge economy?
Right. Having 16 Fortune 500 companies headquartered there, that #1 per capita ranking, it isn't just a point of pride. It acts as a constant engine for high-value, knowledge-intensive services. These big corporate players, they demand sophisticated legal help, financial advice, management consulting, and that creates this thriving ecosystem for those specialized fields, making sure top-tier talent stays right there in the state. It's kind of a virtuous cycle.
Okay, so when you pull all these threads together, from medical patents to those corporate powerhouses, what kind of overall innovation footprint does Minnesota actually paint?
It truly excels in specific areas, being first for Fortune 500 HQs per capita and first for medical device patents is, well, incredible. And then you add its fourth national rank in 5-year business survival rates. You get a pretty clear picture of a dynamic, innovation-driven economy that's not just generating ideas, but successfully bringing them to market and, crucially, sustaining them.
That's impressive resilience. But like you said, none of this happens in a vacuum. It sounds like these industries are supported by a strong, really interconnected network of institutions. Where should we start looking at that?
Let's begin with the major research universities. The University of Minnesota, the U of M, is a flagship public research university. It spent over $1.3 billion on R&D in fiscal year 2023 alone. That's a staggering commitment to research, placing it among the top public universities nationally. And it's a powerhouse for creating new ventures. It's spun out more than 260 startups since 2006. That ranks it third among U.S. public universities in startup creation. It's a direct pipeline from the lab right to the market.
And of course, you can't talk Minnesota without mentioning Mayo Clinic and Associated Centers in Rochester. They're legendary. But they're not just healthcare providers, are they? They seem like massive innovation engines themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Mayo Clinic is a global leader in biomedical research. They're doing pioneering work in regenerative medicine, oncology, genomics, you name it. And their Discovery Square initiative down in Rochester is a prime example. It's this planned urban ecosystem specifically designed to attract biotech startups and researchers. It's really cementing Rochester's role as a major health and biotech hub. It's a truly unique model of medical innovation, I think.
Beyond those giants, I imagine other educational institutions must play a pretty big role in building that talent pipeline too.
They absolutely do. Yeah, we can't overlook the contributions of really excellent private colleges and universities like Carleton, Macalester, the University of St. Thomas, and also the comprehensive Minnesota state system of community and technical colleges. These institutions are crucial for training the knowledge workforce in IT, healthcare, engineering, ensuring a continuous stream of skilled professionals. It's definitely about more than just 4-year degrees.
And are there specialized research facilities beyond the big universities?
Yes, definitely. There are specialized research institutes and labs like IPRIME, which focuses on advanced materials, and the Hormel Institute, known globally for cancer research. Plus, you've got federal research facilities like the USDA Midwestern Climate Hub contributing to ag tech knowledge. It's a really broad network, constantly generating new insights.
With all these moving parts, it's clear Minnesota isn't just, playing the game. It seems like it's changing it in some areas. But how does this all translate into, raw economic numbers?
Right, the economic impact. Well, if you look at the professional and business services sector alone, it contributed $60.3 billion in 2024. That's about 15% of Minnesota's total GDP. 15%. And the information industry has seen incredible growth, expanding by roughly 60% over the last decade. Furthermore, the education and health services sector is the state's single biggest employer. Over 500,000 healthcare jobs alone, that represents roughly 1 in 5 jobs in Minnesota. It's just a massive economic driver.
Wow, 1 in 5 jobs. That's an undeniable impact. But when we talk about productivity and value added,
Minnesota's per capita income has consistently exceeded the national average, which sounds fantastic, but I understand there's a bit of a nuance there regarding productivity growth.
That's right. While the income figures are strong, labor productivity growth has actually slowed down a bit. It was about 0.9% annually between 2019 and 2023, which lagged the overall U.S. rate. Part of this is possibly attributed to the state not quite keeping pace in some of the very fastest growing tech subsectors, like certain areas of software maybe. It's a challenge to maintain that really high growth rate.
Okay. That brings up a crucial point about regional disparities. Does this knowledge economy spread evenly across the state, or is it pretty concentrated in certain areas?
Oh, it's largely concentrated. The Twin Cities metro area, Minneapolis-St. Paul, accounts for about 60% of the state's population, but it hosts the vast majority of tech companies, corporate HQs, the big universities, so it really dominates the knowledge economy activity. Rochester is a notable exception, of course. Down there, the Mayo Clinic acts as this gravitational force. It drives a super high concentration of health and biotech jobs, accounting for something like 40% of the city's employment. It really highlights the power of those major anchor institutions.
That makes total sense. These hubs naturally attract talent. So let's talk about workforce trends. Minnesota's labor force is highly educated, which, as you said, has historically been a competitive advantage. But are there challenges brewing beneath the surface here?
There certainly are. Despite that high educational attainment, the state faces challenges like slowing labor force growth. It was only about 0.5% from 2020 to 2023. Pretty slow. And this is largely due to an aging population, which places a much greater emphasis on productivity per worker rather than just sheer numbers coming in. It means every worker needs to be, more impactful.
And that leads directly into skill gaps, I'd imagine. Are there specific areas where Minnesota's workforce isn't quite matching the demand from these knowledge industries?
Precisely. Here's a worrying stat. Minnesota ranks near the bottom nationally in the share of high schools offering computer science courses. And college STEM degrees have actually plateaued or even declined since about 2017. Meanwhile, there's this immense demand for emerging tech skills, data analytics, cybersecurity, AI. This gap creates a real challenge for future growth if it's not addressed.
Yeah, that CS stat is concerning. This raises a critical question for me. What about diversity and inclusion within this high-tech workforce? Are there opportunities being missed there?
Absolutely. There's a definite gap. Women, for instance, make up only about 27% of Minnesota's tech workforce compared to being 50% of the total workforce. And minorities are also significantly underrepresented in tech roles. Addressing this isn't just, the right thing to do socially. It's a clear economic opportunity. It's about broadening the talent base, ensuring future growth, tapping into previously underutilized tools of innovation and perspective.
So how is Minnesota actively trying to address these talent challenges and skill gaps? What's being done?
Well, there are some significant talent development initiatives underway, which is encouraging. A key one is the North Star Promise Scholarship Program that just started in 2024. This program provides free college tuition at public institutions for students from families earning under $80,000 a year. It's a really bold move designed to significantly increase the number of skilled graduates and just make higher education far more accessible. And there are other programs, too, like the Dual Training Pipeline, aiming to bridge skill shortages by combining on-the-job training with classroom instruction.
That North Star Promise sounds like a powerful investment in human capital. Very interesting. Now let's pivot a bit to innovation and startups. Minnesota has this rich historical legacy of innovation, right? From the pacemaker to Post-it notes. Is that legacy still reflected in its startup scene today?
It certainly is, yeah. That legacy shows up in its rankings. Minnesota is 7th nationally in overall patents and, as we said, an impressive first in medical device patents per capita. And the current startup ecosystem, well, it's seen really notable growth over the last, say, 5-10 years. It's definitely challenging some earlier perceptions of maybe being a bit slower. You've got success stories like Jambiff, which had its IPO in 2020, or Arctic Wolf, a cybersecurity unicorn that actually relocated to Minnesota in 2020. That says something. In fact, in 2022 alone, health startups secured $1.7 billion in capital just through Medical Alley starts. That shows vibrant investor interest.
Oh, $1.7 billion just in health startups in 1 year. That's a significant amount of capital flowing in. What about the overall venture capital trends? Did Minnesota feel that global slowdown we saw recently?
Minnesota definitely hit record highs in VC investment in the early 2020s. I think it was $2.7 billion in 2021. And yes, there was that global slowdown in 2022, 2023, which absolutely impacted Minnesota as well. Things cooled off. However, local funds and, importantly, corporate venture arms like those from Mayo and Optum Ventures are becoming increasingly important. They provide crucial capital, demonstrating some real resilience in the local funding landscape, even when the broader market tightens.
Okay, so the money is there, maybe shifting sources a bit. What about the support infrastructure for startups? What kind of safety nets and launch pads exist for these new companies?
Oh, the support infrastructure is actually quite robust. This includes accelerators like Techstars Farm to Fork, incubators like the University of Minnesota's Venture Center, and big competitions like the Minnesota Cup, which awards millions to promising startups each year. Plus, the state government's Launch Minnesota initiative that started in 2019, it's a flagship program providing grants and networking, and it specifically targets underrepresented founders and businesses in greater Minnesota outside the Twin Cities. And again, the University of Minnesota plays this just outsized role. They launched 25 startups in FY 2024 alone. They hit their 25 by 2025 goal early, and they rank first in tech transfer among 20 Heartland states. It's a very active ecosystem.
25 startups in 1 year from UMN. That's huge. What really stands out here for me are the areas of emerging innovation. Where is Minnesota looking to make its mark next?
Yeah, a really pivotal point to consider is Minnesota's federal designation in October 2023 as a MedTech Hub 3.0. This designation specifically focuses on smart medical devices, the ones integrated with AI and data. Now, this opens the door for potential federal funding, maybe $50–75 million, which could truly accelerate innovation in that specific sector. And beyond that, there are growing strengths in clean energy and agricultural technology, which align perfectly with the state's existing industry powerhouses and initiatives.
This all suggests an evolving entrepreneurial culture. How would you describe it? Is Minnesota nice still the dominant theme?
Well, while that Minnesota nice reputation might suggest modesty, the community itself is actually really vibrant, collaborative, and incredibly resilient. I mean, look at the strong 5-year business survival rates ranking 4th nationally. That clearly indicates a supportive environment where businesses can not only launch, but genuinely thrive and grow over time.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to government and policy support. How is the state actively, fueling this knowledge economy?
The state has several key levers it's pulling. The R&D tax credit is crucial, and it became partially refundable in 2023. This isn't just a tax break, it's really a lifeline, especially for small or brand new startups. It means even if they're not profitable yet, they can still get some cash back for their research investment. That gives them vital capital to keep innovating right there in Minnesota.
And what about encouraging that really early stage investment, that seed money? That's often a critical hurdle for new companies.
Right, that's where the angel tax credit comes in. It was reinstated in 2023. Think of it as a really powerful motivator for local investors. If you put money into an eligible Minnesota startup, the state gives you a quarter of that investment back as a tax credit. You might even get it as a refund. And importantly, half of the $10 million allocated for 2023-2024 is specifically reserved for women-owned, minority-owned, or greater Minnesota-based startups. So it directly fuels seed stage growth and tries to address those funding gaps for underrepresented founders.
That sounds like a really smart way to de-risk investment and encourage diverse founders at the same time. Are there also federal funds being leveraged?
Yes, the state is strategically deploying federal SSBCI funds. That's the State Small Business Credit Initiative, a national program. They're using it for programs like their Direct Investment Venture Capital program. This basically means the state co-invests alongside private capital in promising startups, focusing on those key knowledge sectors. The idea is it attracts even more private funding.
So we've talked about attracting capital. How about attracting and retaining the talent through policy?
Right. Well, beyond the big North Star Promise scholarship we mentioned, there are other higher education funding and talent programs. For instance, efforts like the Dual Training Pipeline Program and the SciTech Internship Program are designed specifically to address skill shortages. They do this by connecting students and workers with hands-on experience and training that's directly aligned with what industry actually needs.
What's truly striking here are the broader incentives for innovation and expansion. Are there other, maybe less obvious ways the state supports these kinds of businesses?
Definitely. There are things like the Minnesota Job Creation Fund, which provides grants, tax exemptions specifically for data centers, which are knowledge economy infrastructure, and significant TIF, that's tax increment financing and infrastructure support for major projects like Rochester's huge destination medical center development. It all works together to attract and retain these knowledge-intensive businesses. It's a pretty comprehensive approach.
This really paints a picture of intense collaboration and strategic planning. How integrated are these efforts between government, academia, and industry? Sounds like they talk to each other.
They seem to be highly integrated, yes. You see initiatives like the Governor's Drive for Five plan, which sets these ambitious goals for economic growth, or the new Legislative Commission on Cybersecurity. These demonstrate a very coordinated effort to foster growth and also address emerging challenges together.
And finally, just circling back to the federal partnerships and funding you mentioned earlier with that MedTech Hub designation.
Yeah.
How significant is that validation, really?
Oh, the 2023 Federal Tech Hub designation for Smart MedTech is huge. It's a massive validation of Minnesota's leadership in that space. It doesn't just recognize the state's existing strengths, it opens up real pathways for significant federal investment, potentially, $50–75 million, which can truly accelerate innovation in that sector and definitely raise Minnesota's profile nationally.
Okay, so after laying out all these strengths and supports, what are the biggest maybe speed bumps or challenges Minnesota is facing on this road to continued innovation?
Yeah, the key challenges are important to acknowledge. It's not all smooth sailing. While Minnesota has this high baseline of innovation, it faces somewhat stagnating innovation growth. It ranked 47th for growth in new patents from 2013 to 2023 and 45th in R&D growth from 2017-2021. That's not great. Its tech sector also maybe lacks visibility of some major hubs, and it seems underrepresented in some of the really fast-growing subsectors like software publishing and cloud computing.
And you touched on this earlier with that workforce supply and demographics challenge. With the sluggish labor force growth and those skill gaps, particularly in computer science, that seems like a persistent hurdle. What about capital and funding gaps, especially for companies trying to scale up, not just start?
Those are indeed critical hurdles. While that early-stage funding has definitely grown, there still seem to be capital and funding gaps, particularly for Series B or C funding rounds. Those are essential for startups looking to really scale their operations significantly. And as you noted, maintaining research leadership for institutions like the U of M and Mayo Clinic amidst really fierce national competition for talent and funding, that's a constant challenge they face.
But, every challenge often presents an opportunity, right? Where do you see Minnesota's biggest upside, the key opportunities for the future?
The key opportunities are really compelling, I think. Minnesota can truly leverage its diverse industry strengths. It's not a one-trick pony. It can apply technology and innovation across its already strong sectors: healthcare, food and agriculture, advanced manufacturing. Imagine AI integrated deeply into medical devices made there, or cutting-edge data analytics applied to sustainable agriculture, building on Cargill or General Mills' presence. That's the sweet spot where existing strengths meet future tech.
And that MedTech Hub and federal investments you mentioned offer a powerful springboard for that, don't they?
They absolutely do. They offer a significant opportunity to secure major funding and really raise the state's profile on a national and even global scale. This is a potential game changer, especially for the health tech sector.
And the North Star Promise program is such a bold move to grow the talent pipeline, making higher education more accessible. Plus, maybe Minnesota could capitalize more on remote work trends to attract new talent who can, work from anywhere but choose Minnesota.
Absolutely. And the recent entrepreneurial momentum and success stories like those Jamfus and Skywater IPOs, they're creating this virtuous cycle. They recirculate wealth and, just as importantly, expertise back into the ecosystem, people who've done it before mentoring the next generation. And this also presents a clear path for inclusive innovation by deliberately supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs and expanding programs to more rural areas.
Finally, there seems like a unique opportunity for Minnesota to maybe take a leading role in sustainable and ethical tech leadership. It kind of aligns with its civic-minded traditions, shaping the future of areas like AI ethics or green tech development.
Yeah, and just to bring it all together with a snapshot of recent years, the period from 2019 to 2025 has been highly dynamic. The pandemic impact, for instance, from 2021, it definitely accelerated remote work trends, but it also spurred a lot of innovation in healthcare, showing the sector's resilience.
Right, and we saw that record venture funding year in 2021, over $2.7 billion, followed by the inevitable venture slowdown in 2022-2023, which mirrored global trends. But like you said, by mid-2024, we are seeing some clear signs of revival, which is definitely encouraging.
A real landmark event was certainly the Federal Tech Hub designation in October 2023 for smart med tech. That was just a crucial validation of Minnesota's strengths, and it paves the way for potentially significant future funding opportunities.
And there were those key state policy milestones in 2023 that really stand out. Reinstating the Angel Tax Credit, launching the North Star Promise-Free College Program, making the R&D tax credit refundable for small businesses. These were all clearly designed to fuel innovation and talent development across the board.
We also saw significant corporate developments. You had 3M spinning off its healthcare division into a new company based there, Medtronic opening a new R&D center, plus General Mills and Cargill launching new venture funds. These are major established companies doubling down on innovation right there within the state.
And in higher education and research, the University of Minnesota reported record research funding exceeding that $1 billion mark again. And they've developed new focus areas in things like green energy and microelectronics, looking towards the future.
And while there were definitely some challenges in 2023 tech employment with layoffs hitting some companies, the situation seems to have largely stabilized. Minnesota's diverse economy showed resilience, with many laid-off tech workers apparently finding new opportunities relatively quickly. That's a testament to the underlying strength of the ecosystem.
Plus, we've seen those notable startup exits, like Jam's successful IPO in 2020 and Skywater Technology going public in 2021. These aren't just success stories for those companies. They inject capital and, maybe more importantly, expertise and confidence back into the whole ecosystem, strengthening it for the next wave. So after all that, what does this deep dive mean for you, our curious listener? We've really unpacked Minnesota's knowledge sector, revealing this dynamic economy built on innovation, yes, but also education and strategic collaboration. We've seen how a state, maybe not always grabbing the national tech headlines, has quietly built global leadership in really critical fields like med tech and ag tech.
Yeah, the core takeaway, I think, is that Minnesota, while it definitely faces challenges common to many mature economies, like that slowing growth rate, it possesses these really unique assets and a remarkably proactive approach to maintaining its competitive edge. Its strength really lies in its ability to foster deep, spiralized innovation that often flies under the radar but ends up having this massive global impact.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Minnesota serves as this incredible example of how a state can strategically leverage its existing strengths, how it can build these collaborative ecosystems between academia, industry, and government, and consistently invest in its people to drive real economic prosperity.
Yeah.
It really shows that innovation isn't just about flashy tech giants concentrated in one or two coastal regions. It's about deep, sustained expertise in critical sectors that truly benefit humanity.
Right. And this maybe raises an important question for the future. As technology keeps evolving at this incredible pace and global competition intensifies, how can states like Minnesota, the ones with strong foundations but maybe slower overall growth rates, how can they best leverage their unique industry convergence points like AI integrated into medical devices or data analytics applied to sustainable agriculture? How do they use those strengths to not just keep pace, but to actually lead the next wave of innovation?
We've tried to give you a shortcut today to being well-informed about Minnesota's powerful, if sometimes quiet, knowledge economy. Now, perhaps when you look at the innovations behind your medical devices, or maybe even the food on your plate, you'll have a new appreciation for the medical alley and the ag tech corridor humming away right there. It makes you wonder what other under-the-radar economic powerhouses might be reshaping industries right now. Something to think about.